They handed me the folder 3 hours after I graduated, right there at the dinner table, between the mashed potatoes and the congratulations cake nobody had touched yet. I should have known something was wrong the second I walked into that Connecticut house. The air felt rehearsed. My older sister Lauren was already sitting down, laptop closed, hands folded like she was waiting for a meeting to start. Mom kept glancing at Dad. Dad kept clearing his throat. "This is just a formality," Mom said, sliding the manila folder across the wood. I opened it. Family Trust Amendment. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did, and I wish they hadn't. They wanted me to sign my inheritance over to Lauren. All of it. Just until things stabilize, Mom added, like that explained anything. I looked up. What needs stabilizing? Dad leaned back in his chair. Your sister has responsibilities. You don't. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it felt like a joke that hadn't landed yet. I just finished 4 years of college. I had scholarships. I had a job offer waiting in New York. I'd done everything they said mattered. Lauren reached across the table and touched my hand. Her voice came out soft, practiced. You're strong. You'll be fine without it. That's when something inside me switched off. Not broke. Switched off. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't shove the folder back at them and storm out like they probably expected. I nodded, folded the document in half, and said I needed time to read through it. Relief washed over Dad's face. Mom squeezed my shoulder like she'd just closed a deal. That night, I lay in my childhood bed staring at those glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck up there when I was 9. I never peeled them off. Never bothered. That room had always felt temporary, like I was just passing through until I became someone worth noticing. I replayed the last 4 years in my head. The school events they forgot. The holidays where Lauren's problems somehow became the only topic at the table. The way my accomplishments got a nod while hers got a speech. This wasn't about money stabilizing. This was about erasing me without saying my name out loud. So I made a choice. I went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where you sulk and wait for someone to ask what's wrong. The kind where you stop giving them anything to measure. I stopped posting online. Stopped answering the family group chat. Took the New York job and didn't mention my start date. A week later, I signed the document. Didn't add a note. Didn't ask questions. Just mailed it from a blue mailbox on 5th Avenue and kept walking. When Mom called to thank me, I let it ring. From the outside, I'm sure it looked like I'd accepted my place. The quiet daughter who finally understood how things worked. I showed up to work early, stayed late, kept my head down. On weekends, I took the train north to New Hampshire. There was a small legal office up there, the kind that helped people who couldn't afford the big names. I didn't tell them why I was there at first. I just listened. And that's where I learned the first thing my parents didn't want me to know. The trust they made me sign away. It wasn't theirs to give. My grandmother created it before she died. She split everything evenly between her grandchildren and buried a clause deep in the paperwork, a clause I'd never been told about. Any amendment required informed consent. Without pressure. Without coercion. Silence could be evidence. I kept my mouth shut and my phone off. Because the quiet wasn't weakness. It was preparation. Nobody questioned the silence at first. Mom sent a few texts, normal stuff, asking how work was going, if I'd tried that Italian place near my apartment. I answered in short sentences. Fine. Busy. Maybe next month. Lauren posted constantly. California sunsets. Brunch plates. Captions about gratitude and family. I screenshotted every single one. At the office, I became the person who volunteered for extra projects. The one who stayed until the building security started dimming the lights. My boss thought I was ambitious. Really, I just needed the distraction. But the weekends, those belonged to New Hampshire. The law office sat on a quiet street between a coffee shop and a used bookstore. The attorney's name was Ruth, and she didn't ask why a 22-year-old with a corporate job spent her Saturdays reading estate law. She just handed me files and said, "Start here." I learned how trusts worked. How amendments got challenged. How coercion didn't always mean someone held a weapon to your head, sometimes it just meant they held your family over it. 3 months in, Ruth looked up from her desk and said, "You're not just curious, are you?" I slid a copy of the trust amendment across her desk. She read it twice. Then she asked if I had the original trust documents. I didn't. "We'll need those," she said. "Where was it created?" "My grandmother lived in Maryland." Ruth nodded and made a note. "This might take time. Weeks, maybe longer. You okay with that?" I thought about the dinner table. The folder. Lauren's hand on mine. "I've got time," I said. Back in New York, I lived like nothing had changed. I went to happy hours when coworkers invited me. I smiled in meetings. I sent birthday cards. But at night, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a notebook, writing down everything I remembered. Every comment. Every forgotten event. Every time Lauren's name came first. I wasn't building a case yet. I was building a timeline. The call from Ruth came on a Tuesday. "We got the original documents," she said. "You need to sit down for this." I was already sitting. "There's a clause about coercion, like we thought. But there's something else." I waited. "There's a middle initial attached to your portion of the trust. It doesn't match the one on your birth certificate." The room tilted slightly. "What does that mean?" I asked, even though part of me already knew. Ruth's voice softened. "It means we need to pull your adoption records." I hung up. Then I stared at my phone for 20 minutes, waiting for the floor to stop moving. They hadn't just taken my inheritance. They'd never told me who I really was. I didn't call my parents. I didn't call Lauren. I sat in that New York apartment for 3 days, going to work like a robot, coming home and staring at walls. Adoption. The word sat in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. Every childhood memory rewired itself. Every time Mom said I was independent or Dad said I didn't need as much attention. Every holiday photo where I stood slightly to the side. It wasn't preference. It was distance. By Friday, I was back on the train to New Hampshire. Ruth had the records spread across her desk when I arrived. Birth certificate. Adoption decree. Legal name change documents, all dated before I could form memories. "You were 6 months old," Ruth said. "Closed adoption through an agency in Boston. Your biological mother's name is redacted, but your grandmother, your adoptive grandmother, she knew. That's why the trust lists both names." I picked up the birth certificate. The name meant nothing to me. It belonged to someone else. Why didn't they tell me? My voice came out flat. Ruth leaned back. "Can't answer that. But what I can tell you is this: your grandmother made sure you were protected. Look at this." She slid another document forward. Contingency trust provision. If your inheritance was ever diverted, delayed, or transferred under false pretenses, this separate fund activates. It's been sitting in a managed account since she passed. 12 years of compound interest. The number at the bottom made my throat close. "She knew," I said. She suspected something, Ruth corrected. Maybe not exactly this, but she built in safeguards. The adoption complicated things legally, so she created 2 layers. One they knew about. One they didn't. I thought about my grandmother. The way she used to watch my parents during family dinners. The way she'd slip me $20 and tell me to save it somewhere safe. She'd been protecting me even then. What do we do now? I asked. Ruth tapped the trust amendment I'd signed. We challenge this. The coercion clause is clear, pressure to sign equals invalid consent. You were 19, just graduated, sitting across from your parents and sister. That's textbook undue influence. How long will it take? Depends on how hard they fight. Could be months. Could be longer. I looked at the documents scattered across the desk. My 2 names. My grandmother's signature. The money she'd hidden away. File it, I said. Ruth nodded. They'll know the second the paperwork hits. You ready for that? I thought about Lauren's posts. Mom's texts. Dad's relief when I signed without arguing. They'd been comfortable for months. Comfortable thinking I'd stay quiet forever. File it from Virginia, I said. Use the registered agent clause. Let them figure out where it came from. Ruth almost smiled. You've been studying. I had good weekends. 2 weeks later, the certified letter arrived at their Connecticut address. I was at my desk in New York when my phone started ringing. I let every call go to voicemail. The voicemails piled up for 3 days. Mom's came first, confusion, then concern, then something that sounded like panic wrapped in politeness. Honey, we received some legal documents. There must be a mistake. Call us back so we can clear this up. No mistake, I thought, deleting it. Dad's message was shorter. Clipped. This is unnecessary. Call your mother. I deleted that one too. Lauren left 4 messages. The first 3 were variations of the same thing: disbelief, hurt feelings, promises we could work this out as a family. The 4th one was different. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said, and her voice cracked. We're sisters. I played that one twice before deleting it. Because here's what Lauren didn't know yet, what none of them knew. The trust my grandmother created wasn't just about money. It was about truth. Ruth found it buried in the supplementary documents, a handwritten letter my grandmother had attached to the original trust filing. The court had it sealed, but Ruth knew a clerk in Maryland who owed her a favor. The letter arrived scanned and marked confidential. To whom it may concern. I'm writing this because I know my son. I know his wife. I love them, but I see who they are when they think nobody's watching. The younger girl, the one they adopted, she'll need protection. Not from strangers. From them. I've structured this trust so she can't be erased. If anyone tries to remove her share, redirect it, or pressure her into giving it up, I want it contested. I want it fought. She deserves to know she mattered to someone. My hands shook holding the paper. She knew. Not just suspected, knew. And she'd built a legal wall around me before I even understood I needed one. I called Ruth. Can we use this? It's supporting evidence, she said. Shows intent. Shows your grandmother anticipated exactly what happened. Combined with the coercion claim, it strengthens everything. What about the adoption? Do they have to know I know? Ruth was quiet for a moment. Eventually, yes. It'll come out in discovery. But right now, they're scrambling to figure out how you even found a lawyer. Let them scramble. That weekend, I didn't go to New Hampshire. I stayed in New York and walked through Central Park, watching families spread blankets and share food. I wondered if my biological mother ever thought about me. If she knew what happened after she signed the papers. If she knew her daughter had been treated like a placeholder. My phone buzzed. Lauren's name lit up the screen. I almost answered. Then I remembered her hand on mine at that dinner table. You're strong. You'll be fine without it. Like strength was supposed to replace fairness. I put the phone back in my pocket and kept walking. By Monday, their attorney had contacted Ruth. They wanted a meeting. They wanted to resolve this misunderstanding before it escalated. Ruth asked what I wanted to do. Tell them I'm unavailable, I said. And ask for the Minnesota property records while you're at it. What property? I'm not sure yet, I said. But if they hid one thing, they hid more. I was right. The Minnesota property showed up in the records 3 weeks later. Ruth called me at work. I stepped into an empty conference room and locked the door. You were right, she said. Investment property. Duplex in Minneapolis. Purchased 18 years ago under a family LLC. Who's listed? Your father. Your mother. And 2 minor beneficiaries, Lauren and you. My stomach dropped. Both of us. Both of you. Equal shares. It sold 4 years ago for $470,000. I did the math in my head. 4 years ago I was 18. Lauren was 23. Where did the money go? Ruth's pause told me everything. Lauren's name is on the transfer documents. Yours isn't. The room felt smaller. They forged my signature. Or they used a legal loophole claiming you were unreachable for consent. I'm still digging. But the bottom line is, you were owed half that sale. You never saw $1. I sat down hard in one of the conference chairs. $470,000. Split 2 ways. $235,000 that should have been mine. That's not all, Ruth continued. I found 2 more properties. Smaller ones. Same pattern. Your name on the original deed. Gone by the time they sold. How much total? She told me. The number made my vision blur. This wasn't about one trust fund. This wasn't about one moment at a dinner table. This was systematic. When did it start? I asked. Best I can tell. Right after your grandmother died. First property sold 6 months later. 12 years old. I'd been 12 years old when they started erasing me from assets I didn't even know existed. Does Lauren know? The question came out before I could stop it. Ruth hesitated. Hard to say. She signed transfer documents. Whether she knew you were supposed to sign too, that's a different question. I thought about Lauren's posts. Her condo. Her car. The renovations she'd done last year that she'd called a blessing. Had any of it been mine? There's something else, Ruth said, and her tone shifted. I need to ask you a hard question. Go ahead. Do you want to know about your biological family? Because if we keep pulling records, we might find them. Or they might find us. I stared at the blank wall of the conference room. Did I want to know? The people who gave me up. The people who weren't there for any of it, not the forgotten birthdays, not the graduations nobody attended, not the dinner where I got erased. Not yet, I said. Right now I need to focus on the people who were supposed to be my family. Understood. So what's the play? I thought about my parents' voicemails. Their lawyers' meeting requests. The way they kept saying misunderstanding like this was all some clerical error. Add the property fraud to the filing, I said. All of it. Every sale. Every transfer. Every dollar they took. That changes this from a trust dispute to potential criminal fraud. Good. They'll fight harder. Let them. I hung up and sat in that conference room until someone knocked, needing the space. When I finally came out, I had 17 missed calls. I didn't listen to any of them. That night, I ordered takeout and sat on my fire escape, watching the city lights. Somewhere in Connecticut, my parents were realizing the quiet daughter had teeth. And I hadn't even started biting yet. The amendment to the filing went through on a Thursday. Ruth warned me it would cause chaos. She wasn't wrong. By Friday morning, my phone had 43 missed calls. Texts flooded in, some from numbers I didn't recognize. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Family friends asking if everything was okay. The legal documents had become public record. Anyone could pull them. Anyone could read about the properties, the transfers, the money that disappeared. My parents' dirty laundry was now hanging in a courthouse for the world to see. I turned my phone off and went to work. But Saturday, I took the train back to New Hampshire. Ruth had something to show me. She spread the contingency trust documents across her desk, the ones my grandmother had hidden in plain sight. Your grandmother was sharper than most attorneys I know, Ruth said. Look at the activation clause. I read it carefully. If the primary inheritance is diverted, transferred, or signed away under any form of pressure, duress, or misrepresentation, the contingency fund shall be released to the beneficiary in full, with no claim available to the transferring parties. She knew they'd try this, I said quietly. She did more than know. She planned for it. This account has been managed by a trustee in Delaware, someone your parents never met. The moment you signed that amendment under pressure, this activated. How much? Ruth slid the statement across the desk. The number hit me like cold water. Between the original amount and 12 years of careful investment, my grandmother had left me more than my parents had tried to steal. This is mine. Legally. Completely. Your parents can't touch it. Lauren can't claim it. It existed outside the main trust specifically for this scenario. I picked up the paper, reading it again to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. My grandmother had seen this coming. Had watched her son and daughter-in-law, had watched how they treated their daughters differently, and had built me an escape route. There's a letter, Ruth said, handing me an envelope. The trustee sent it over. Your grandmother left it with instructions to deliver it only if the contingency activated. My hands trembled opening it. If you're reading this, then I was right to worry. You don't remember me well, you were so young when I got sick. But I remember you. I remember how you'd sit quietly at family dinners while everyone talked over you. How you'd help clear dishes without being asked. How you made yourself small to keep the peace. You shouldn't have to be small. This money isn't charity. It's yours. It always was. I'm just making sure nobody can take it. Be loud when you need to be. Be quiet when it serves you. But never, ever let them convince you that you don't matter. You mattered to me. The letter blurred. I wiped my eyes before the tears could fall on the ink. You okay? Ruth asked. Yeah, I said. I'm filing the challenge next week. From Virginia still. No, I said, folding the letter carefully. From right here. I want them to know exactly where it's coming from. Ruth nodded. Then let's make it count. The certified letter hit their mailbox on a Tuesday morning. I know because Mom called at 9:47 a.m. I was in a budget meeting when my phone lit up on the table. I declined the call and kept taking notes. She called again at 10:15. Then 10:43. Then 11:20. By lunch, Dad had called 6 times. I ate a salad at my desk and listened to the first voicemail on speaker. You need to stop this. Dad's voice was tight. Controlled. You're embarrassing the family. Whatever you think happened, we can discuss it privately. Call off your lawyer. Delete. Mom's message was different. Tears. Lots of them. I don't understand where this is coming from. After everything we've done for you. We gave you a home. We raised you. And this is how you repay us. The word repay sat heavy in my chest. Like I owed them for existing. Delete. Lauren's call came at 2 p.m. I almost answered. My finger hovered over the green button. Then I remembered the property sales. Her name on transfer documents. $235,000. I let it ring out. Her voicemail was 8 minutes long. Crying. Apologizing for things she didn't name. Begging me to come home so we could talk like sisters. But here's the thing about Lauren, she was good at sounding hurt. She'd always been good at that. What she wasn't good at was telling the truth. I saved the voicemail. Evidence of contact. Evidence of pressure. By Wednesday, they'd hired a second attorney. Ruth called to tell me. They're claiming you're acting irrationally. Emotional distress. They want the court to assign a mediator. Let them try, I said. There's more. They're saying the property sales were legitimate business decisions. That you were a minor and couldn't consent anyway. I wasn't a minor 4 years ago. That's what I told their attorney. Thursday afternoon, Lauren showed up. Not in New York, I would have known. She went to Connecticut. To my parents' house. I know because my aunt called. The one who'd always been decent to me. The one who sent birthday cards. She's been there for 2 days, my aunt said quietly. Planning strategy. Your mother keeps saying you'll come around if they just explain it right. Explain what right? The theft? My aunt was quiet for a moment. Is it true? The properties. Every word. Then don't back down, she said. I never understood why they treated you differently. Now I'm starting to. She hung up before I could respond. Friday evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Lauren stood in the hallway, makeup smeared, holding flowers. I stepped back from the door and didn't make a sound. She knocked for 11 minutes. Then she left. Ruth called the next morning with news that changed everything. Sit down, she said. I was already sitting. What did you find? The Minnesota property. It gets worse. The original purchase was funded partially by your grandmother. She put down $70,000 as a gift to her grandchildren. Both of you. The coffee in my hand went cold. So they didn't just steal my half of the sale, I said slowly. They stole my half of the investment from the beginning. Correct. And there's a paper trail. Your grandmother wrote a check with a memo line, for the girl's future. That's documented. That's evidence of intent. I set the coffee down before I could throw it. How did they pull this off? Best I can figure, they used a family LLC structure. Put themselves as managing members. Listed you and Lauren as beneficial owners. But because you were both minors at the time of purchase, they controlled everything. That's legal. The structure. Yes. What they did with it. No. They had a fiduciary duty to both of you. When they sold and only distributed to Lauren, they violated that duty. I stood up and walked to my window. New York stretched out below, full of people going about their lives. None of them knew that miles away, my family had spent years carefully erasing me from paper. What else? I asked, because I could hear it in Ruth's voice. There was more. The property sale, it went through right before you graduated. My stomach flipped. How long before? 2 months. The money hit Lauren's account 6 weeks before they handed you that trust amendment. The timeline snapped into focus. They sold the property. Gave Lauren her half plus mine. Then immediately pressured me to sign away the trust fund too. It wasn't about stabilizing anything. It was about taking everything before I was old enough to ask questions. They planned it, I said. Looks that way. I thought about that dinner. The folder. The rehearsed way everyone sat. Mom's comment about formality. They'd known exactly what they were doing. There's one more thing, Ruth said. I found the closing documents. Your father signed as the LLC manager. But there's a notarized statement attached, supposedly from you, waiving your right to contest the sale. I never signed anything. I know. I compared it to your signature on file. It's not even close. So they forged it. Or had someone forge it for them. Either way, it's fraud. And not the civil kind, the criminal kind. I sat back down. The room felt too small and too big at the same time. How much prison time are we talking about? Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Ruth said carefully. But wire fraud, forgery, financial elder abuse of trust funds, these stack up fast. If a prosecutor wanted to make an example, they could. What do you think I should do? Ruth was quiet for a long moment. What do you want? Because we're past the point of just getting your money back. We're at the point where people could face real consequences. I thought about my grandmother's letter. Be loud when you need to be. I want everything documented, I said. Every property. Every signature. Every lie. And then I want to decide. Fair enough, Ruth said. I'll keep digging. But we both knew what I'd find. More theft. More lies. More proof that family meant nothing when money was involved. The forensic accountant found 3 more properties. Ruth brought her in after the forgery evidence surfaced. Her name was Patricia, mid-50s, reading glasses on a chain, the kind of person who got excited about spreadsheets. She got very excited about mine. This is artful, Patricia said, spreading documents across Ruth's conference table. Not sophisticated, but artful. They moved money through just enough accounts to make it look complicated without actually hiding anything. Meaning? I asked. Meaning they thought you'd never look. And if you did look, you'd get confused and give up. She walked me through it. Properties purchased in my name and Lauren's. Sales that happened during key moments, right before college tuition was due, right before Lauren's wedding, right after my grandmother's funeral. Every time, the money went into accounts I couldn't access. Every time, my signature appeared on documents I'd never seen. Total? Ruth asked. Patricia didn't even need to check her notes. $643,000. That's principal only, not counting lost investment growth. The number sat between us like something physical. Can we prove it? I asked. Already did, Patricia said, tapping her folder. I've got bank records, property transfers, forged signatures, and a pattern spanning 12 years. Any prosecutor would take this case. Ruth leaned forward. Speaking of prosecutors, their attorney called again. They want to settle. For how much? Full restitution plus the original trust fund. They're willing to return everything if you sign an NDA and agree not to press charges. I looked at Patricia's spreadsheet. 12 years of theft, itemized and color-coded. What did you tell them? That I'd present the offer to my client. Ruth's expression didn't change. But between us, they're panicking. Their attorney knows what we have. He knows it's not just civil court anymore. My phone buzzed. Another call from Mom. The 14th today. I declined it. There's something else, Ruth said. Your aunt, the one who called last week, she reached out to me directly. She wants to give a statement. About what? About watching your parents treat you differently your whole life. About conversations she overheard. About your grandmother's concerns before she died. Family turning on family. The foundation cracking. And Lauren? I asked. Ruth and Patricia exchanged a look. Lauren's attorney contacted us separately, Ruth said carefully. She claims she didn't know about the forged signatures. Says your parents handled everything and just told her to sign where they indicated. Do you believe her? Ruth shrugged. Doesn't matter what I believe. Matters what we can prove. And right now, we can prove she received money that belonged to you. Whether she knew it was stolen, that's murkier. I thought about Lauren at my door. The flowers. The tears. Maybe she really didn't know the full scope. Maybe she just accepted what our parents told her without asking questions. Or maybe she'd learned not to ask questions because the answers might cost her. They're fracturing, Patricia observed, gathering her documents. Parents blaming each other. Lauren claiming ignorance. Your aunt providing testimony. This is what happens when fraud unravels, everybody runs for cover. After they left, I sat alone in Ruth's office. My phone rang again. Dad this time. I answered. Finally, he said. We need to talk about this ridiculous. No, I said. You need to listen. I know about Minnesota. I know about the other properties. I know about the forged signatures. Silence. You can settle, or you can go to trial. But either way, I'm done being quiet. You're making a mistake. The mistake was thinking I wouldn't find out. I hung up. 2 days later, their settlement offer doubled. I still didn't take it. The case hasn't finished yet. The money hasn't moved. The truth is still spreading through the family like water finding cracks. But 3 weeks ago, I did something I hadn't done in months. I wrote them a letter. Not through attorneys. Not through certified mail. Just a letter, handwritten, mailed from a blue box in Manhattan. I didn't ask for anything. Didn't demand apologies. Didn't explain my reasoning. I just told them a story. When I was 12, Grandma took me to get ice cream. Just the two of us. She asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. I said I didn't know yet. She said that was okay. That I had time. That I didn't need to have everything figured out just because other people thought I should. Then she said something I didn't understand until recently. She said, some people will try to make you smaller so they can feel bigger. Don't let them. You take up exactly the right amount of space. I think about that a lot now. About how you made me feel like I took up too much space just by existing. How loving me seemed like a chore you divided up and delegated. How even my name, my real name, was something you decided I didn't deserve to know. You asked why I never warned you before filing the lawsuit. Here's the answer. People who spend years making someone invisible don't get a warning when that person decides to be seen. The properties, the money, the forged signatures, those are just evidence. The real theft was making me believe I didn't deserve better. Grandma knew what you were. She built walls to protect me because she knew you wouldn't. And she was right. You'll receive the updated settlement terms next week. The number is higher now. It includes the contingency trust you didn't know existed, the properties you thought I'd never find, and compensation for 12 years of being erased. You can accept it, or we can go to trial. Either way, I've already won. Because I stopped being the daughter who made herself small. And I started being the granddaughter who takes up exactly the right amount of space. I didn't sign it with love. I didn't sign it at all. They'd know who it was from. Ruth called yesterday. They accepted the terms. Full restitution, documented apology, binding agreement that they'll never contact me again unless I initiate it. Lauren's portion got separated out, she's repaying what she received, but avoiding criminal charges. Turns out ignorance, when properly documented, can be a defense. I'm not sure I forgive her. But I understand her better now. She was raised to take what was offered without questioning where it came from. That's its own kind of damage. Mom and Dad face no jail time, but their reputation in the family is destroyed. My aunt made sure of that. Turns out she'd been keeping notes for years, waiting for someone to finally speak up. The money transfers next month. More than I ever imagined having. Enough to build something completely separate from them. But here's what nobody tells you about winning. It doesn't fix the years you lost. Doesn't undo the graduations they missed or the birthdays they forgot. Doesn't change the fact that the people who should have protected you were the ones you needed protection from. What it does is give you a choice. And I choose to build something they can't touch. I'm starting a fund, for kids aging out of foster care, for adopted children navigating family trauma, for anyone who was told they don't matter. Grandma's money, used the way she would have wanted. Taking up space. Making noise. Refusing to be erased. They taught me that silence means weakness. I taught them that silence means strategy. And when you finally speak after years of quiet, people listen. Not because you're loud. But because you earned every single word.